What would you do if the food you took home to feed your hungry family became the food that unalived them? This is the story of Mary, a poor and helpless maid who worked for a powerful billionaire. A man the world called kind, but whose heart hid more darkness than anyone could imagine. The evening sun was sinking behind the tall buildings of the city. Inside the grand mansion of Mr. Desmond Cole, everything shone: marble floors, golden chandeliers, and long tables filled with delicious food. Laughter echoed from the dining hall where Desmond and his family ate, while servants moved quietly, afraid to make noise. In the kitchen stood Mary, a 30-year-old woman with tired eyes and rough hands. She washed plates slowly, humming a hymn she barely had strength to finish. She worked with quiet grace, never complaining, never late. That night's dinner was more than enough to feed 20 people: grilled chicken, rice, soup, and soft bread. When the family finished eating, the table still looked half full. Desmond's wife, Clarissa, wiped her mouth gently and said, "Clear the table. Throw the rest away. I don't want to see yesterday's food again." "Yes, madam," the chef and Mary replied at once. But as they packed the plates, Mary's heart ached. She looked at the golden bowls of untouched food and thought of her children, David, Faith, and little Blessing, waiting at home with empty stomachs. Her husband, Michael, had been sick for weeks. Work as a carpenter had slowed, and medicine was expensive. There was nothing left in the house except water and tears. Mary's eyes glistened as she looked at the food. She knew the mansion's rule clearly: no worker must take leftovers home, but hunger had a voice louder than fear. When everyone left the kitchen, she waited. The house was quiet, the air heavy. Then, with trembling hands, she packed some chicken and bread into a small foil, wrapped it neatly, and slipped it into her old handbag. "God forgive me," she whispered softly. "I can't watch my children sleep hungry again." She looked around once more and hurried out through the back door. But above her, hidden in the corner of the ceiling, a small red light blinked. A CCTV camera recording every move. At home that night, Mary pushed open the rusty door of her one-room apartment. Her 3 children were already asleep on the mat, their tiny bodies curled under thin blankets. She paused for a moment, looking at them with quiet sadness. Their faces were peaceful, but she knew they had gone to bed hungry again. From the corner of the room, her husband Michael sat up slowly on the bed. His face looked pale and his eyes were tired. He had been coughing all day, and his body looked weak from both sickness and hunger. "You're back," he said softly. "Did you get anything to eat today?" Mary nodded and smiled faintly. She brought out a small foil plate from her bag. "I managed to bring this from work. They were going to throw it away." The moment she opened it, the smell of roasted chicken filled the room. Michael's eyes lit up. "Food?" "Yes," she said gently. "It's still warm. You should eat. You can't be sick and hungry at the same time." He shook his head weakly. "But what about the children?" Mary sighed. "Let them rest. I'll get them something tomorrow morning before I leave for work." Michael hesitated, then smiled faintly. "You should eat too, Mary." She shook her head. "No, I already ate at work. Please, just eat. You need your strength." He smiled again, his eyes full of gratitude. "God bless you, Mary. You always think of everyone else before yourself." He prayed quietly over the food, whispering thanks to God, and then began to eat slowly, enjoying every bite as though it were a feast. Mary sat beside him, watching silently. Her heart was heavy but grateful. Seeing him eat after so many hungry nights gave her a strange kind of peace. When he finished, he leaned back against the wall, looking at her lovingly. "One day," he said with a weak smile, "I'll make enough money for you and the children to eat anything you want." Mary smiled softly. "Amen." They said goodnight. The room fell quiet except for the sound of rain outside. She didn't know that this would be the last time she would ever see her husband smile. The rain grew heavier that night, drumming softly on the rusted zinc roof. Mary turned on her side, pulling the thin blanket closer to her body. Michael's breathing was slow and steady beside her. She smiled faintly in the darkness, whispering, "Thank you, Lord, for giving us something to eat tonight." She closed her eyes, exhausted, unaware that death was already moving silently through her home. Hours passed. The night grew colder. Sometime after midnight, Michael stirred in his sleep. His hand moved to his stomach. At first, it was a dull ache, small and harmless. Then it grew sharper like fire spreading inside him. He sat up slowly, pressing his belly, breathing heavily. "Mary," he called weakly. Mary opened her eyes, half asleep. What is it?" "My stomach," he groaned softly. "It's burning." She sat up quickly. "Maybe it's pepper." "Let me get you water." She grabbed a cup and poured water from the plastic container beside the wall. He drank it all, but instead of relief he started coughing violently. "Michael," she shouted, alarmed. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer. His body tensed, his hands trembling. He tried to stand, but his legs gave way. The cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. "Jesus Christ, Michael!" Mary screamed. He fell to his knees, his eyes wide with fear. His breathing came in short gasps. "Mary, help me. My chest, my stomach. It's—" He broke off, coughing hard. Mary wrapped her arms around him, crying. "Michael, talk to me, please." He clutched her wrist tightly. "Take care of the children." "No, don't talk like that," she screamed, shaking him. "You'll be fine. You'll be fine." But he was no longer hearing her. His eyes rolled back, his hands went limp, and his body went still in her arms. For a moment, the world froze. Mary's mind refused to understand what had just happened. Then the truth hit her like thunder. "Michael," she screamed again, shaking him harder. "Wake up, please wake up." Nothing. His body was heavy, his head dropped against her shoulder. She pressed her ear to his chest. Silence. No heartbeat, no breath. "God," she cried, her voice cracking. "No. Please no, not my husband, not him." Her sobs filled the tiny room. Little Blessing woke up, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Mama, why are you crying?" Mary couldn't answer. She just held Michael's lifeless body tighter, rocking back and forth on the floor. "Mama, what's wrong with Papa?" the child asked again. Mary turned to her with tears streaming down her face. "He's just sleeping, my baby. He's just sleeping." But even as she said the words, her heart broke into pieces. The neighbors came running when they heard her screams. The narrow compound filled with people carrying lanterns and flashlights. "What happened?" someone asked. Mary was on the floor, her hands shaking. "He was fine. He just said his stomach was burning. And then... She broke down, unable to speak. The neighbor, a tall man, checked Michael's pulse and looked up slowly. "He's gone." "Gone?" another neighbor whispered. "How?" Mary's friend, Mama Udu, held her shoulders. "What did he eat tonight?" Mary pointed weakly at the broken plate on the floor. "Just chicken. The one I brought from my boss's house." People began to exchange uneasy looks. "From her boss's house?" "She always brings food from there. Maybe she did something to it." Mary lifted her head sharply. "What are you saying? Why would I hurt my husband?" But the whispers grew louder. Fear and suspicion filled the small room like smoke. The police arrived hours later. They covered Michael's body and carried it away. Her children stood outside, watching in confusion. "Mama, where are they taking Papa?" David asked, his small voice trembling. Mary couldn't answer. Her throat hurt too much to speak. By morning, the news had spread across the neighborhood. Mary unalived her husband. Her mother-in-law arrived first, crying and shouting, "Where is my son? What did you do to him?" Mary knelt before her, sobbing, "Mama, please." "I didn't do anything. He ate the food and just started shaking." "I don't know what happened." "You liar," the woman screamed, slapping her across the face. "You wanted to unalive him. You brought poison from that rich man's house." "No, Mama, no. I swear to God I didn't know. Why would I hurt the father of my children?" But no one listened. Her brother-in-law grabbed her by the arm. "You wanted to be free from him, Abby. You wanted to marry another man, Abby. Now you'll rot in jail." Mary cried louder, trying to explain, but the noise of the angry crowd drowned her words. Neighbors gathered outside the small house, whispering, judging, some pretending to pity her, others shaking their heads as if they always knew she was capable of evil. Her children clung to her waist, crying as the men shouted and pushed her around. Then, The sound of a car engine cut through the chaos. Everyone turned. A black SUV rolled to a stop. The door opened, and out stepped Mr. Desmond Cole, wearing a dark suit and sunglasses. The moment people recognized him, they went silent. His presence was commanding, his face unreadable. "What's going on here?" he asked calmly. "She unalive her husband," Michael's brother shouted. "She poisoned him with food from your house." Desmond frowned. "Poison? From my house?" He walked closer to Mary, who was on her knees. Mary wept harder. "Sir, may God bless you. You're the only one who believes me." Desmond nodded, his lips curling into a faint smile. "I'll always stand by the truth." He stood, adjusted his suit, and turned away. But as he walked back to his car, his smile changed, calm on the outside, cold and satisfied underneath. He opened the car door, sat down, and whispered to himself, "Rest in peace, Michael. Your wife will never know." Then he drove off slowly, leaving Mary kneeling in the mud, broken, confused, and completely unaware that the man she trusted most was the very reason her world had fallen apart. After the funeral, Mary went back to work after 2 weeks of mourning. Her heart was still heavy, her eyes always red, but she had no choice. Her children had to eat. The mansion felt colder now, and every corner reminded her of her pain. Mr. Desmond began to show her even more kindness. He often called her into his office to check how she was doing. At first, she thought it was genuine concern. He gave her money for the children's school fees, asked if she was eating well, and told her not to worry, that he would always look after her. One afternoon, about a month after the burial, he called her again. She walked quietly into his office. "Sir, you sent for me?" she asked softly. Desmond leaned back in his chair, smiling slightly. "Yes, Mary." "Please, sit down." She hesitated. "No, sir, I'm fine standing." He nodded slowly. "Mary, you've been through a lot. I can see it in your eyes. You're strong, but you don't have to carry all this pain alone." Mary lowered her head. "It's not easy, sir. But I'm trying." He stood up, walked toward her, and said gently, "You don't deserve this kind of suffering. You need someone who will take care of you, you and your children. Let me do that for you, Mary. I love you. I want to make you happy again." Mary froze, her eyes wide with shock. "Sir, what did you just say?" "I said I love you," Desmond replied softly. "I want to take care of you and your children. You're too beautiful, too kind, too special to live in pain. Let me give you a better life." Mary shook her head quickly. "Sir, with all due respect, I said no. I've told you before, I'm not interested. I just lost my husband a month ago, and now you're saying all this? It's not right." Desmond smiled faintly, his voice calm but sharp. "You're too beautiful for a poor man to enjoy, Mary. Thank God he's gone forever. Now I can finally have you to myself." Mary stepped back, disgusted. "God forbid. Sir, please don't ever say that again. My husband may be gone, but I still love and respect his memory. I will never betray that." He laughed quietly. "You're being too emotional. He's dead, Mary. You're alive. Life must go on." She raised her chin, tears filling her eyes, but her voice firm. "Sir, even if I live 100 years, I will never forget him. And I will never be with you. You are a married man, and I have children. My children will not be happy to see their mother move on so quickly, especially with her boss. Please, let's not talk about this again." Desmond's smile faded slowly. He looked at her for a long moment, then said coldly, "You'll regret turning me down." Mary bowed slightly and whispered, "If standing for what is right brings regret, then I'll accept it. But I will not do what is wrong." She turned and walked out. Desmond stood there, staring at the door she had just walked through, his jaw tightening. His calm mask slowly cracked, revealing the anger underneath. "She thinks she can say no to me," he muttered. "We'll see about that. You'll come to me, Mary, one way or another." Days turned into weeks after Mary rejected her boss's wicked proposal. She worked quietly, avoiding eye contact with him. Every night she walked home tired but peaceful, proud of herself for standing firm. Her children were her only joy now. Each morning she kissed them goodbye before school and reminded them, "Always pray, always thank God, and never collect anything from strangers." They would nod and run off laughing, their small feet raising dust on the narrow road. But evil does not rest, and Desmond was not a man who forgot rejection. He had tried kindness, he had tried temptation. Now anger began to grow inside him like fire. Every time he saw Mary smile, his jealousy deepened. He couldn't stand seeing her happy when he, a man of power, had been denied what he wanted. "This woman made me a fool," he said one evening to himself, pacing in his study. "But she will pay. I will make sure of that." He picked up his phone and made a call. His voice was cold. "I have a small job for you. 3 children. Yes, her children. Make it look natural. No noise, no evidence." Then he ended the call and smiled. The next day was bright and sunny. Mary's children, David, Faith, and Blessing, walked home from school with their school bags hanging loosely on their shoulders. Their stomachs rumbled. They had only eaten a little pap that morning. As they reached the main junction, a man in a neat shirt stood by a car, smiling kindly. He held a small white bag. "Are you Mary's children?" he asked warmly. David nodded politely. "Yes, sir." The man smiled again. "Your mother works for my boss. She told him you were hungry, so he sent you this. Fresh meat pies." Still warm, Faith's eyes widened. "For us?" "Yes, for you," the man said gently. "But don't eat it here. Take it home. Your mother said you should eat together." The children smiled and thanked him. He waved goodbye, entered his car, and drove off. They didn't know they had just collected death with their small, innocent hands. When they got home, the house was quiet. Their mother wasn't back yet from work. They opened the bag, 3 hot meat pies. The smell filled the air. David smiled. "Mama really loves us." Faith laughed. "Let's eat before it gets cold." They prayed quickly, thanking God and their mother, and then ate happily, talking and laughing between bites. But minutes later, everything changed. David's laughter stopped first. His hand dropped, the half-eaten pie falling to the floor. He pressed his stomach, groaning, "Faith, my stomach, it hurts." Faith turned, confused. "What's wrong?" Then she too gasped, her eyes wide, clutching her throat. "I can't breathe." Blessing began crying. "What's happening?" The small room filled with panic. The children stumbled, fell, and within minutes, silence. All 3 of them lay still on the cold floor, their eyes half open, crumbs of the poisoned meat pie beside them. That evening, Mary returned home humming softly to herself, holding a small loaf of bread and 2 oranges. She was tired but happy, happy that she had earned something to feed her children that night. "David," she called as she opened the door. "Faith, Blessing, Mama is home." No answer. She smiled. Maybe they are sleeping. She stepped inside, and the bread fell from her hand. Her 3 children were lying motionless on the floor. Their skin was pale, their eyes lifeless. Mary dropped to her knees with a scream that shook the walls. "No!" She crawled to them, shaking their cold bodies one by one. "Wake up, please, my babies, wake up." Her voice broke into painful sobs. She hugged all 3 of them together, crying so loud that neighbors came rushing in. When they saw the scene, they covered their mouths in shock. "Oh my God," one woman shouted, "all her children?" Another neighbor ran to fetch water, another called the police. But it was too late. They were gone, all 3 of them. Mary's world shattered completely. She fell beside their bodies, her tears washing their small faces. "God, why? First my husband, now my children. What did I do? Why are you taking everyone I love?" Her cry echoed through the compound until her voice faded into hoarse silence. When the news reached Desmond, he was in his mansion's study, sipping his usual glass of red wine. His phone buzzed, and his guard whispered the report. For a moment he said nothing. Then a slow, cruel smile crept across his face. "So? It's done?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir." "The woman's 3 children are gone." Desmond leaned back in his chair, laughing under his breath. "Good. Very good. Now there's no one left to stand in my way. She'll be mine soon. She has no choice now." He poured himself more wine and whispered, "Rest in peace, little ones. Your mother will come to me now, whether she wants to or not." Later that night, his wife Clarissa entered the study. Her eyes were red. She had clearly been crying. Desmond, she said softly, I just heard what happened to Mary's children. 3 children, all gone in one day. My God, that's not ordinary. Something evil is happening. We must help her. Let's hire a private investigator or... Before she could finish, Desmond slammed his hand on the table. Shut up, he shouted. Clarissa jumped, frightened. Desmond, I said shut up, he roared again. You barren woman. You can't even give me a child, and now you want to tell me how to run my life. Mind your business. Her eyes filled with tears. Desmond, please, get out, he barked. If you want to do something useful, go find a way to get pregnant instead of talking nonsense about that maid. Clarissa stood frozen for a moment, her hands trembling. Then quietly, she turned and left the room, tears streaming down her face. When the door closed, Desmond sat back in his chair and whispered coldly, one by one, I'm clearing my path. Soon, Mary will have no one, and when that time comes, she'll finally come to me. 2 days passed after the tragedy, but for Mary, it felt like a lifetime. Her house was quiet, too quiet. The walls still echoed with her children's laughter, but now only silence answered her. God, she whispered weakly, why didn't you take me instead? Her eyes were swollen from crying, her voice barely a whisper. The neighbors avoided her now, too afraid or too sad to visit. That afternoon, there was a knock on the door. She didn't move at first. The knock came again, firmer this time. Slowly, she dragged herself up and opened the door. Standing there was Mr. Desmond Cole, holding a bouquet of flowers. He forced a sad smile. Mary, he said softly, I heard the news. I was out of town when it happened. I came back as soon as I could, Mary's eyes filled with fresh tears. She looked weak, pale and lost. They're gone, sir, she said, her voice trembling. All of them. My children. All gone. Desmond sighed deeply and stepped closer, pretending to look sympathetic. I can't imagine your pain, Mary. I truly can't. Life has been so unfair to you. She nodded slowly, looking down at the floor. I don't understand, sir. First my husband, now my children. What did I ever do wrong? He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Sometimes life takes everything from us before giving something better. You can't stay here alone, Mary. You need people around you. You need care. She shook her head. No, sir. I'll be fine. He frowned softly, pretending to be concerned. Fine? How can you be fine here, in this empty house? It's not safe for a woman to live alone. Please, come stay in my mansion. There's a guest room, very private. You can rest there for a while until you're strong again. Mary's eyes widened slightly. No, sir. I can't. Why not? He asked calmly. She stepped back a little. Because people will talk. You're a married man, and I'm your maid. It wouldn't look right. I can't move into your house. Desmond sighed heavily, pretending to be hurt by her refusal. Mary, don't worry about what people say. I'm only trying to help you. You've suffered enough. Think about it, okay? I'll give you time to decide. He touched her shoulder once more and whispered, I just want to see you happy again. Then he turned and walked away slowly, his expression calm, but inside he was smiling. Soon, he thought, she'll have nowhere else to go. Then she'll come to me herself. That evening the silence was broken again, this time by the angry voice of an elderly woman outside. Mary! Mary! The voice shouted, full of rage. Mary wiped her tears and opened the door. Standing there was her late husband's mother, her eyes red, her hands shaking with fury. You! The woman screamed, pointing at her. You've done it again. You took my son from me, now you've taken my grandchildren too. You witch! Mary gasped. Mama, please. I didn't do anything. I loved them. I lost them too. Shut up, the woman shouted, her voice echoing down the street. You liar. You killed them all. First my son, now my grandchildren. You will not stay in this house any longer. Tears ran down Mary's cheeks. Mama, please don't say that. I'm innocent. I swear before God, I would never harm my own family. The old woman stepped closer, her finger shaking in anger. Innocent? Don't call yourself that. You're cursed. I warned my son about you. You brought nothing but bad luck to this family. Now look, they are all dead. Mary fell to her knees, weeping bitterly. Please, Mama, I beg you. I have no one left. Don't throw me out." But the woman was unmoved, her eyes burned with hatred. "You will leave this place, Mary. I'm coming back in 3 days with my boys, and I swear by the grave of my son, you will be gone from here. If you don't leave willingly, we will drag you out ourselves." Mary's heart broke all over again. She clasped her hands together, begging through tears. "Where will I go, Mama? I have nowhere. I have nothing." The woman turned and spat on the ground. "Go back to your rich master. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Let him feed you now, let him shelter you. But as for this house, you will never step your evil feet here again." She stormed off, shouting curses as she went, her voice fading into the distance. Mary sat on the ground, shaking. The last piece of her husband's family had now turned against her. She was truly alone. She whispered weakly, "God, please help me. They're all gone. Everyone hates me. I don't even know where to go anymore." Outside, thunder rumbled softly in the clouds, as if the heavens themselves were mourning with her. And somewhere, far away in his mansion, Desmond Cole sat by his window, smiling as he sipped his wine. Everything was happening exactly as he planned. 3 days later, the knock Mary had been dreading came. When she opened the door, her late husband's brothers stood there with angry faces and folded sleeves. Behind them was his mother, holding a small Bible in one hand and pointing at her with the other. "I told you, witch," the old woman shouted. "Your time is up. Get out of this house today." Mary fell to her knees. "Please, Mama, I have nowhere to go. I have lost everything, my husband, my children. Please have mercy." But mercy was far from their hearts. "Mercy," the eldest brother barked. "You had mercy when you poisoned our brother. You had mercy when you unalived those innocent children. Pack your things before I lose my temper." He kicked her small metal bucket aside, spilling water across the floor. Mary wept as she gathered her few clothes into an old bag. She begged again, but they didn't listen. The neighbors watched from their doors, whispering, pitying, but no one came to help. When she stepped outside, her husband's mother pointed a trembling finger at her. "If you ever come back here, may the ground reject your feet." Mary walked away slowly, tears falling onto the dusty road. She carried her bag, her world had truly ended. When the sun began to set, she went to her neighbor, Mama Udu, the only woman who had once shown her kindness. Mary knocked weakly. "Mama Udu, please, it's me." The door opened, and the woman looked at her with sad eyes. "Mary, what are you still doing outside at this hour?" "They chased me out," Mary said softly. "Please, let me sleep here tonight, just for one night." "I'll find somewhere tomorrow." Mama Udu looked at the small room behind her. Her husband was lying on the mat, and 6 children were already asleep. She sighed painfully. "Mary, my heart wants to help you, but look around. I only have this one room. If I bring you in, where will my children sleep?" Mary bit her lip, trying not to cry. "Please, I'll stay on the floor. I won't disturb anyone." The woman touched her shoulder gently. "I'm sorry, my sister. I can't. You know how my husband is. He won't allow it. Please forgive me." Mary nodded slowly. "It's all right. Thank you." She turned away quietly and walked into the darkness, holding her bag tight to her chest. Her feet were bare, her body trembling. She had nowhere left to go. As she walked past the silent streets, one name came into her mind, Desmond. The man she had been avoiding, the man she didn't trust. But tonight she had no other choice. It was late when she reached the big mansion. The gates were still open. The guards recognized her immediately. "Madam Mary," one of them said in surprise, "you're here at this hour?" Mary nodded weakly. "Please, I need to see your boss. I have nowhere else to go." They looked at each other and then at her tired face. "All right, come in." The door opened before she could knock again. Desmond's wife, Clarissa, stood there in a long nightgown, her expression shocked but kind. "Mary," she gasped, "what happened to you?" "You look exhausted." Mary dropped her bag and burst into tears. "They threw me out. I have nowhere to go." Clarissa quickly led her inside. "Oh dear God. Don't cry. Come in, please." She helped Mary sit on a chair, gave her a glass of water, and called one of the maids to bring food. "Don't worry," Clarissa said gently. "You'll stay here tonight. We have a guest room downstairs. I'll tell Desmond when he comes back." Mary bowed her head. "Thank you, Ma." "God bless you," Clarissa smiled warmly. "Rest now. You've suffered enough." She didn't know she had just welcomed a broken soul into the lion's den. Later that night, Desmond returned home. He was in a good mood, whistling softly as he entered the house. "Welcome, honey," Clarissa said carefully. "There's something I need to tell you." "What is it?" "Mary came here tonight. She said her late husband's family threw her out. She had nowhere to go, so I let her stay in the guest room. Please don't be angry." She looked so helpless, Desmond's face changed slightly, surprise mixed with dark satisfaction. "Mary's here." "Yes," Clarissa said, "downstairs. I gave her food and water. Poor woman, she's been through too much." Desmond smiled slowly. "You did well, my dear. I'll go and check on her." He walked down the marble hallway to the guest room. He stood at the door for a moment, straightened his shirt, and knocked softly. "Come in," Mary's weak voice said. He opened the door and stepped inside. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her head down. When she saw him, she quickly stood up. "Good evening, sir." Desmond smiled. "Mary." "Finally, baby, you're welcome." Her face tightened. "Sir, please, I will appreciate it if you don't call me that." He moved a little closer. "Do you remember those years before you got married? When we were friends?" "Yes," she said softly. "I remember. You used to visit my family house and help my father fix things. We were close. But that was long ago," he nodded, smiling faintly. "And do you also remember when I told you I loved you? When I asked you to marry me before I traveled abroad?" Mary's eyes softened with painful memory. "Yes, I remember. You asked, but I told you I already had someone in my life. I told you about Michael. You didn't like it." Desmond sighed dramatically. "I begged you, Mary. I told you to wait for me. I even called you from London and said, 'Please wait for me.' But you said never. You said your heart belonged to another man." She swallowed hard. "Desmond, that was over 15 years ago. I had already promised Michael. You and I were friends, nothing more. Please don't bring that back now." He smiled slowly, walking closer. "But fate has brought you back to me, hasn't it?" The moment he left, Mary sank onto the bed, covering her face with her hands as tears ran down her cheeks. Her heart was beating fast, not from love, but from fear. She whispered through her sobs, "God, why is this happening again? Please protect me." Morning light spilled through the curtains of the guest room. Mary had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her children's faces, then Desmond's cold smile behind them. When she finally sat up, her head ached and her heart felt heavy. A soft knock came. It was Clarissa, holding a breakfast tray. "Good morning, Mary," she said kindly. "You must eat something." Mary stood quickly. "Thank you, Ma. You didn't have to trouble yourself." "It's no trouble," Clarissa replied, setting the tray on the table. "I know what it is to cry all night. Please, sit." Mary obeyed. Clarissa poured her tea and asked gently, "My husband told me you two knew each other before." Mary nodded slowly. "Yes, Ma. A long time ago. We were friends before he married you, and before I met my late husband." Clarissa smiled faintly. "He never mentioned that." Mary looked down. "Life took us different ways. I was surprised when I started working here and found out he was my employer." Clarissa studied her face quietly. There was something honest in Mary's tone that touched her. "I'm sorry about everything that's happened to you," she said. "You can stay here for a while. Don't rush to leave." "Thank you, Ma," Mary whispered. "God bless you." Later that day, Desmond came home earlier than usual. He was whistling softly, the same tune he used to hum years ago when they were young. Clarissa met him at the door. "Welcome back. How was work?" He kissed her cheek quickly, his eyes already searching the hallway. "Where's Mary?" Clarissa blinked. "She's in the garden. The maid said she wanted fresh air." He nodded, pretending not to care, but the spark in his eyes gave him away. Outside, Mary sat quietly on a bench, staring at the sky. She heard footsteps behind her and turned. Desmond. "Good afternoon, sir," she said politely. He smiled. "You look better today." "I'm trying to," she replied softly. He sat beside her without asking. This garden used to be my favorite place. Do you remember when I used to bring you flowers from the school compound? Mary sighed. That was a long time ago, Desmond. Please, let's not go back there. He leaned closer. I've never stopped thinking about you. Even when I married Clarissa, I still saw your face in every woman I met. Mary stood immediately. Sir, please. Stop. I didn't come here for this. You came here because you had no choice, he said quietly, and I'll take care of you the way I should have years ago. You owe me that chance, Mary's voice broke. I owe you nothing. All I want is peace. Please let me have that. Before he could reply, Clarissa's voice came from the veranda. Desmond. He turned quickly. Clarissa was standing there watching them. Yes? He asked casually. She forced a small smile. Lunch is ready. He nodded, stood up and walked past her. As he passed, she caught the scent of his cologne mixed with something colder. Guilt. That evening, Clarissa went to her husband's study. He was reading the newspaper. Desmond, she began slowly, I noticed you've been spending a lot of time near the guest room. Is everything all right? He lowered the paper and looked at her with mild annoyance. What do you mean? I just think Mary needs space to heal. The poor woman has lost everything. Maybe you should keep some distance so people don't misunderstand. Desmond's jaw tightened. So now you're giving me rules. No, I'm just... Enough, he snapped. Don't start your jealousy again, Clarissa. I'm only helping her. Clarissa swallowed hard. I didn't mean it that way. I said enough, he repeated. If you don't have a child to keep you busy, don't take out your boredom on me. Her eyes filled with tears. Desmond. Go to bed, he said coldly. She walked out silently, her hands trembling. But in her heart, something had shifted. The man she married, the polite, confident businessman, was turning into someone else. That night, unable to sleep, Clarissa walked quietly down the corridor. She stopped outside the guest room door and listened. Inside, Mary was crying softly, whispering prayers. Clarissa pressed her hand to her chest. Dear God, she murmured, what is happening in my house? Meanwhile, Desmond stood in his dark study, staring out through the glass toward the garden. His reflection in the window looked like a stranger. She'll come around soon, he whispered to himself. She always does. Days passed slowly inside the mansion, but the tension grew heavier with each sunrise. Desmond had become restless. He spent more time outside the main bedroom and more hours checking on Mary than in his own wife's presence. His smiles came only when Mary's name was mentioned, and his patience with Clarissa had turned to coldness. Clarissa saw it all. The way his eyes followed Mary, the way he suddenly dressed better, the way he ignored her at dinner. She tried to push away her fears, but they grew like thorns inside her chest. Then one night, everything changed. Clarissa was passing by her husband's study when she heard his voice. The door was slightly open. She stopped and listened, her heart pounding. Desmond was on the phone. His voice was low but filled with emotion. I don't care what people say, he said firmly. I'm willing to divorce my wife if that's what it takes. I can't hide my feelings anymore. I want Mary with me. She belongs here. Clarissa froze. The phone call continued. Yes, he said again, pacing slowly. I'll make her mine. She has nowhere else to go anyway. Once she stops fighting me, she'll understand. Clarissa covered her mouth with her hand, tears filling her eyes. She could hardly breathe. The man she had loved for years, the man she stood beside through everything, was planning to throw her away for another woman, a broken widow who didn't even want him. She walked away quietly, tears streaming down her face. That night she didn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart aching, her thoughts racing. She remembered when she first married Desmond, how proud he had been, how kind. But that man was gone. The one sleeping beside her now was cold, obsessed, and cruel. By morning, something inside her had snapped. The next afternoon, Desmond left the mansion for a business meeting. Clarissa sat alone in the living room, staring into space. Then her eyes fell on the guest room door, Mary's door. She stood up slowly, walked toward it, and knocked hard. Mary opened the door, surprised. Good afternoon, Ma. Clarissa's eyes were red, her face pale from sleeplessness. Mary, pack your things. Mary frowned softly. "Ma." "I said pack your things," Clarissa shouted suddenly. "You have to leave this house now." Mary stepped back, shocked. "Ma, what did I do?" "Please, if it's about anything, I can explain." Clarissa's voice broke. "I have tried, Mary. I welcomed you into my home, fed you, gave you a bed, treated you like a sister. But you have destroyed my marriage. I can't take it anymore." Mary's eyes widened. "Ma, I swear before God, I've done nothing wrong. I don't want your husband. I've never wanted him." Clarissa wiped her tears angrily. "Don't lie to me. I heard him last night. He said he's ready to divorce me for you. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that's doing to me?" Mary's voice cracked as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Ma, please believe me. I've begged him to stop. I've refused him again and again. I never wanted this. He's your husband, not mine." Clarissa shook her head, pacing in frustration. "Then why does he look at you like that? Why doesn't he touch me anymore? Why does he ignore me like I don't exist?" Because of you, Mary." Mary fell to her knees, sobbing. "Please, Ma. Don't send me away. I have nobody, no family, no home. I've lost everything already. Don't do this to me." Clarissa covered her face, crying too. "I thought I could handle it. I thought I could be strong, but every time I see you, I see the end of my marriage. I can't take it anymore. Please, just go, Ma," Mary whispered brokenly. "Please." Clarissa shook her head, stepping back. "I'm sorry. I really am. I don't hate you, Mary, but I can't live under the same roof with you anymore." Mary wiped her tears slowly. "God knows my heart. I never wanted to cause pain in this house." Clarissa looked away, her voice trembling. "Take your things. Go now, before he comes back." Minutes later, Mary walked out of the mansion gate with her old bag over her shoulder. The same guards who had once welcomed her watched in silence, pity in their eyes. She didn't look back. Her tears blurred everything before her. She had walked away from her husband's family, from her neighbors, and now from the only shelter she had left. As she stepped out onto the lonely road, the sun was already setting. She whispered, "God, where will I go now?" Inside the mansion, Clarissa sat on the staircase, crying uncontrollably. She didn't hate Mary, she hated what her husband had become. When Desmond returned that evening and learned what had happened, his anger filled the house like thunder. He stared at his wife with eyes that no longer looked like the man she had married. "You sent her away," he snapped, every word like a blow. Clarissa trembled. "I couldn't live with this, Desmond." "You've changed." Desmond laughed, low and dangerous. "Changed? No, I only saw clearly for the first time. It's Mary I love. I will do anything to have her, even if it means sending people to an early grave. I will do it. She is mine forever." Clarissa took a step back. "Desmond, you can't mean that." "I mean every word. If I go out and I don't find her, you are gone. Just wait for me." Before Clarissa could answer, he stormed out of the house and slammed the door behind him. The echoes of his footsteps faded into the night. Mary walked slowly down the empty street, the city lights blurry through her tears. She had nowhere to go, and fear was a constant heavy companion. Her legs shook, and her bag felt heavier than it ever had. A car slowed, and a man stepped out. He was well-dressed, calm and kind in his face. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Mary looked up, startled. He introduced himself with a warm smile. "My name is Bernard. I'm a lawyer. I couldn't help but see you. You look like you need help." She hesitated, the wide world pressing on her. She had learned to trust very few people, but there was something safe in his eyes. Slowly she explained her story to him. Bernard listened without interruption, pity and anger moving across his face in equal measure. When she finished, Bernard was in silence, as if setting his mind. "Mary," he said finally, his voice steady, "you should not be alone tonight. Come with me. You can stay at my apartment while we figure out what to do next." "I will help you." Mary wanted to refuse. Pride and shame rose like a wall, but the exhaustion in her bones and the memory of cold nights pushed her forward. They walked to his car. As he closed the door, he gave her a small, honest smile. "We'll start by getting you warm food and clean clothes. Then we'll talk about the rest." Desmond came home late that night, his face dark with fury. He slammed the front door so hard that the frame shook. His wife, Clarissa, came running out of the bedroom, startled. "Desmond, what is it?" "Did you find her?" she asked nervously. He glared at her with eyes full of rage. "No. I searched everywhere and couldn't find her. I checked the bus parks, the market, everywhere. If by tomorrow I still can't find Mary, I swear I'll get you arrested." Clarissa gasped. "Arrested? For what?" "For ruining my life," he shouted, his voice echoing through the mansion. "You sent her away, the only woman I've ever truly loved." Clarissa stepped back, her hands trembling. "Desmond, listen to yourself. You're talking like a madman. She doesn't even want you. Can't you see she's been rejecting you from the start?" Desmond laughed bitterly. "Reject me? No woman rejects me. She's just scared. She'll come back when she realizes she belongs to me." Clarissa's eyes filled with tears. "You're obsessed. You've become a stranger. I can't live like this anymore." Desmond turned sharply. "What did you just say?" Clarissa wiped her tears and lifted her chin. "I said I'm done, Desmond. I want a divorce. I'm leaving this house. I can't live with a man who threatens me, humiliates me, and worships another woman in front of my face. You've destroyed everything we built." Desmond's lips curved into a cruel smile. "A divorce? Great. That's the best news I've heard all year." She blinked, shocked by his response. "You're not even going to fight for this marriage?" He scoffed. "Fight for what? You're useless to me. You can't give me a child, you can't keep me happy, and now you want to act like a saint." "Please, spare me the drama," Clarissa's voice trembled. "Desmond, I stood by you through everything. When people doubted you, I believed in you. I gave you my youth, my time, my love. And what did I get in return?" he interrupted coldly. "An empty house and a bitter woman who cries every night about being barren. You know what? Go ahead, leave, run to your lawyers. I don't care. This is exactly what I've always wanted." Tears ran freely down Clarissa's cheeks. "You'll regret this someday. You've destroyed so many lives already, Desmond. One day the truth will come out." Desmond laughed mockingly. "Truth? The truth is I've been trapped with a lazy woman who can't get pregnant. Now I'm finally free. Go to hell and meet Mary's late husband while you're at it. Maybe the two of you can cry together about how life treated you." Clarissa gasped, hurt beyond words. "Desmond, how can you say something so cruel?" He poured himself a drink, ignoring her. "Because I can. And because I don't care anymore. The sooner you leave, the better." Clarissa's hands trembled as she wiped her face. "Fine," she whispered. "You win. But remember, evil never wins forever. God is watching." She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing down the hall. Desmond watched her go, his expression cold and empty. When the door finally slammed shut, he whispered to himself, "Good riddance." He sat back, sipping his drink slowly, but inside anger still boiled like fire. He had lost control of everything, his wife, his reputation, and the woman he desired. The next morning, Desmond sat in his car for a long time, staring at nothing. He hadn't slept all night. His head ached from anger and the weight of his own thoughts. He had already called his lawyer friend, Barrister Bernard, to help him begin divorce proceedings. Bernard was one of the few people Desmond still trusted, calm, intelligent, always professional. He didn't know fate had tied their lives together in a cruel way. When Desmond arrived at Bernard's office, the lawyer was sitting behind his desk, surrounded by files and papers. He stood up politely. "Desmond, good morning. You look tired." "Sit down." Desmond dropped into the chair, rubbing his forehead. "Bernard, I'm going through hell. My wife wants a divorce." Bernard sighed. "I see. You said it was urgent. Tell me what happened." Desmond laughed bitterly. "What happened? My wife doesn't understand me. She doesn't know what I've been through. All I ever wanted was peace and love. But she gave me none." Bernard leaned back calmly. "So you want me to file for divorce?" "Yes," Desmond said sharply. "Let her go. I don't care anymore." They spoke for a while about documents, assets, and court procedures. Bernard took notes, professional as always. But as the conversation ended, Desmond's voice softened. He hesitated, staring at the floor. "Bernard," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something. But you must promise not to tell anyone, not even your shadow." Bernard smiled faintly. "You know lawyers keep secrets for a living." "You can trust me," Desmond sighed, his hands trembling slightly. "I've been carrying something heavy for a long time. I don't sleep well anymore. I see faces every night, faces of the dead. I just need to talk to someone." Bernard frowned slightly but stayed calm. "All right. Whatever it is, speak freely." "Sometimes talking helps," Desmond nodded. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It all started with a woman named Mary." Bernard's heart skipped, but he hid his reaction. "Mary," he thought silently. "Could it be the same woman I helped?" Desmond continued. "She worked for me as a maid. A good woman, too good. But she was too close to my house, too close to my life. She used to take leftover food to her family, without permission. I warned her once, but she didn't stop. So I decided to teach her a lesson." Bernard's breath caught, but he remained still. Desmond laughed quietly. "I poisoned the food. Just a small amount, enough to make her sick. I never meant for it to go that far. But her husband ate it. He died that same night." Bernard was shocked. Desmond kept talking, his words flowing like poison. "It broke her. She cried, screamed, begged. I stood by her, pretending to comfort her. The police never suspected me. Everyone believed I was the kind employer helping her through tragedy." He paused, exhaling heavily. "But it didn't stop there. I wanted her, badly. When she refused me, I decided to destroy everything that made her strong. I had her children poisoned too. I sent a man to give them meat pies on their way from school. They all died that same day." Bernard's heart pounded violently in his chest, his jaw clenched. "Dear God, is it him? The man Mary told me about." Desmond rubbed his eyes with trembling fingers. "Since then, I haven't known peace. I see them in my dreams. The man, the children, their faces staring at me. Sometimes I hear Michael's voice calling my name. I don't know if I'm going mad. I just needed to tell someone." Bernard forced himself to speak calmly. "Desmond, what you're saying is very serious. Are you telling me you unalived those people?" Desmond looked at him with tired eyes. "I didn't mean to kill them. I only wanted to scare her. But everything got out of control. Now my wife's gone, Mary's gone, and I'm alone. Maybe this is my punishment." Bernard swallowed hard. "Have you told anyone else this?" "No," Desmond said quickly. "You're the first." "I trust you, Bernard. Please don't tell anyone. I just needed to talk." Bernard nodded slowly, forcing a calm smile. "Of course. You can trust me." Desmond sighed with relief. "Thank you, my friend. You don't know how much better I feel." They shook hands, and Desmond left a few minutes later, lighter, almost smiling again. The moment the door closed, Bernard leaned back in his chair, his hands shaking. He could still hear the confession echoing in his mind. The woman named Mary. It was her. It had to be. Bernard stood up, pacing the room. So he's the one. The monster who poisoned her family. He picked up his phone and stared at it. His instincts as a lawyer told him to go to the police, but his heart said he had to protect Mary first. He whispered to himself, "Mary must never know he's the one. Not yet. Not until I can prove it." Outside, Desmond got into his car and drove away, humming softly to himself, unaware that the man he had just confessed to was the same man destiny had chosen to bring him down. That evening, Bernard drove home quietly. His mind was heavy with the words Desmond had spoken. The man's voice, calm yet cold, replayed in his head. "I poisoned the food. I had her children poisoned too." When he entered the apartment, he found Mary sitting by the window, folding a few clean clothes. She looked peaceful, though sadness still lived in her eyes. "Welcome, sir," she said softly. "How was your day?" Bernard smiled faintly and sat across from her. "Tiring. But I need to ask you something very important." Mary looked puzzled. "Is everything all right?" He leaned forward. "Mary, your former boss. Can you describe him for me?" She blinked, confused. "Desmond?" "Yes, tall man, dark skin, always wearing expensive suits. Talks slowly, but his eyes are sharp, like he's always thinking something evil." Bernard's heart tightened. Does he have a small scar near his left ear? Mary nodded. Yes, how do you know that? Bernard hesitated for a moment, then took out his phone. He opened a picture of Desmond, one taken at a conference a few years earlier. He handed the phone to her. Mary gasped, her hand trembling. That's him. That's my boss, Desmond Cole. Why do you have his picture? Bernard took a deep breath and said quietly, because he's my client. Mary's eyes widened. Client. What do you mean? Bernard exhaled slowly. He came to my office today about his divorce. But before leaving, he told me something. Something I can't keep secret, even as a lawyer. He confessed to everything. Mary's voice broke. Confessed? To what? Bernard's tone was steady but filled with sorrow. He admitted he poisoned your husband. He admitted he sent a man to unalive your children. He said he did it because you rejected him. He told me everything. Mary's whole body froze. The room spun around her. No. It can't be, she whispered, shaking her head. He stood by me. He comforted me. He said he believed me. Oh God, tears poured down her face. That man destroyed my whole life. Bernard gently holding her shoulders. Mary, listen to me. I'm sorry. I know this is painful, but I promise you, he won't hurt anyone again. I'll make sure justice is done. The next morning, Bernard gathered his evidence and went straight to the police. He submitted his statement and explained everything Desmond had said during their meeting. Because the confession had been made voluntarily, it was enough to open a case. By afternoon, officers arrived at Desmond's mansion with a warrant. He was sitting by the pool, drinking wine, when they surrounded him. Mr. Desmond Cole, the lead officer said, you're under arrest for the murder of Michael Adisa and the poisoning of his 3 children. Desmond laughed mockingly at first. You must be joking. Do you know who I am? But when they showed him the written statement signed by Bernard, his laughter died. He turned pale. Take him away, the officer ordered. Desmond was handcuffed and dragged toward the police van. At the station, Desmond tried to deny it, but the guilt was too heavy. Eventually, he broke down. Yes, I did it, he shouted. I poisoned him. I poisoned them all. She was supposed to be mine. His voice echoed through the station halls like a haunting song of madness. Weeks later, the court sentenced Desmond Cole to life imprisonment. The once proud billionaire sat in a grey uniform, staring blankly ahead as the judge read his fate. Mary sat in the courtroom beside Bernard. When the sentence was announced, tears rolled down her cheeks, not just of pain, but of peace. After the hearing, she turned to Bernard. You kept your promise. You gave me justice when I had given up on it. Thank you, Bernard smiled gently. You don't have to thank me, Mary. You deserved the truth, and they deserved justice. She nodded slowly. Maybe now my husband and children can rest. Bernard looked at her kindly. And so can you. For the first time in years, Mary allowed herself to breathe deeply. The weight that had crushed her heart was finally gone. She whispered a small prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God, for bringing me light after so much darkness. Bernard glanced at her, smiling. This isn't the end, Mary. It's the beginning of a new life. She smiled faintly, wiping her tears. Yes, it is. And together they walked into the sunlight, leaving behind the shadow of evil and stepping into the slow, gentle promise of healing.